Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Change Now, the world's largest event for the planet. My name is Inge Mehus, and I'll be your moderator in our pitch carton. This session is dedicated to a very interesting session called Reverse Pitch. And in order to get a bit of more context, I'm going to hand over to Kevin Tablay, who is the co-founder and the head of development of Change Now. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who is watching us today. So, for those of you who don't know us, so ChangeNOW, it's the fourth edition of the largest, event gathering of solutions for the planet. We started 4 years ago with this idea of showcasing the most innovative solutions that have concrete innovations to address one of the UN goals. And the idea behind this event, this research piece today was, since we're showcasing so many entrepreneurs and helping them connect with investors, with media, with talents, because we want to help them, scale and in their development. Why don't we do the same thing with the investors? Because we know that the investors have a key role to play in this transition and in the building of a world that is more sustainable and inclusive. And this is the reason why we decided to host this event, this reverse pitch, that will put on stage not entrepreneurs for once, but you investors who are hearing entrepreneurs all day long. And today it's actually your time to shine on stage and show, what is your thesis, how do you invest, and how have you guys managed to, find a perfect balance between financial ROI, but also with really high impact. And that's why I'm really pleased to introduce, nine investors, 9 funds that we believe are really helping change the game. And I won't say more than that. I can't wait to hear you guys and hear your presentation. And I hope this will, I hope that you'll have very fruitful conversations going on with other investors and participants at this summit. So over to you, and thank you, and have a great event.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We do indeed have a very exciting program. It's also quite packed. We have 9 pitches, and they will last 4 minutes each, and then we're going to do a follow-up with a 2-minute Q&A. So it will be a very exciting and inspiring marathon. So it really requires the energy and the effort of all of us to keep an eye on time. So 4 minutes for the pitches, 2 minutes for Q&A, and if we all do that together, I'm sure we're going to make it on time. Before we begin our pitches, I would like to introduce the jury, and we're also going to do that quite efficiently. I'm going to call your first name, and then I'm going to invite you to say your full name, your title, and your organization. And we're going to start with Cyril.
Hi, everyone. Cyril Guifes. I'm the head of social impact unit at the Europe Investment Fund. Pleased to be here.
Thank you, Cyril. And over to Raphael.
Hi everyone, my name is Raphaël Didier. I'm Director of Development at BPI France.
And to Brian.
Hello, my name is Brian. I'm heading the BMW Foundation Impact Investment Fund.
Thank you. And Jerome.
Hello, my name is Jerome Zois, and I'm a director with Blue Future Partners. We're a fund of fund focused on early stage emerging managers.
And then over to Claire.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Goudet. I am the Deputy CEO of Rocher Participation, which is an investment company of the Rocher family. Pleased to be here.
And then over to Elena.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elena Minardi. I am the Director of Strategic Planning and Partnerships at Gecina.
And then to Gaspard.
Hello, Gaspard Verdier. I'm the founder president of Simondef. We are an impact investing advisory firm dedicated to foundations and families.
And finally to Cecilia.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Cecilia Kellner, and I am responsible for alternatives and sustainable investment at Nordea Life and Pension in Stockholm, Sweden.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cecilia, and thank you all jury members. What a great jury. Now, let's kick off with the juicy part, and let's start with our first pitch. That will be Vaclav Gregor and Jiří Kučina from Solmis Venture. You got 4 minutes from now on.
Hi, my name is Vaclav Gregor, and Can you see the presentation?
It will probably come up in a second. Just give the tech team a few seconds.
Because I can see the clicker and right, but I can't see the presentation.
You will be able to see it once it comes up. It will just probably take a couple more seconds.
Okay.
Let's see. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. And yes, it works. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm calling from Czech Republic. My name is Václav Gregor. I'm the CEO and partner at Soulmates Ventures. And today we're going to quickly look at our accelerator and our fund. We're a green investment company, and we focus on innovations and innovations in technology. We focus on entrepreneurs who are building a better future and who are tackling the world's biggest problems. The way it started was we had a know-how. We started as a brand development studio, which evolved into an accelerator focusing on early entrepreneurs in the seed and capital phase. And we had a lot of for the MVP, the minimum viable product phase. So we've decided to also start an incubator, which we are the founder of. But our main goal is to help the entrepreneurs in the seed and VC phase. So the focus we have is the accelerator and our Soulmates CEE fund. The focus is helping the entrepreneurs who are solving the problems that we are currently experiencing and that are rising around the world. So our goal is to help to save the planet by accelerating bold green innovations. The reason why is that there is just no other way, and I think that everyone on this call probably understands that to a huge degree. And it's not going to be the government that's going to solve the problems. It's going to be the entrepreneurs, as always. That is why we decided to start a company, and that's why we've decided to, because one of the as entrepreneurs is to bridge the gap between where they are starting and when. So we are promoting on in the region our know-how and our capital, and that way we can combine those two and give the entrepreneur exactly what he needs, which is how we look at it, what we would need when we were starting out, because all of us are entrepreneurs as well. This is why we've decided to connect the investors, the startups, and the community as well. So that way we can help the entrepreneur get on the market, get ready, going into the marketplace, and start journey and the partner companies we have. One of the reasons why I think we make a difference is that we've started with our own capital, and we also have know-how. We aren't starting from scratch. We have a know-how from helping companies such as IKEA or MasterCard before, and this is the know-how that we want to give to the startups as well. After this pitch, we'll be able to discuss it in more detail, but the fund capacity is 10 million euro. The minimum is 125K ticket, and the opportunity right now is up to 9 million euros. The horizon is 10 years, and since we don't have much more time, the most important part is the average investment is 600K, and we're looking into 20 startups in this second cohort for us. And currently we have several companies in the Aisha agreement. 3 of those we've already invested in. And to make it to cut it short, this is the team. So thank you for your brief time, and I hope the connection wasn't an issue because it's a little bit glitchy here.
Thank you so much, Václav. I'm so sorry that I had to cut you off. We are a little bit short on time, but thank you so much for that presentation. And I was just informed we do have one more jury member, Anna. Could you also be so kind and introduce you? And my apologies that you weren't introduced earlier.
Everything's fine. I just jumped in quite at the last minute. So I'm Anne Bardelet. I'm in charge of philanthropy and engagement within Edmond Rothschild Private Banking based in Geneva.
Thank you so much, Anna. And now we'll go over to 2 minutes of Q&A, which will allow one of you jury member to ask Václav one question. Anybody who would like to go? Anybody who has a question for Václav?
Yeah, maybe a question, Claire speaking. Could you just give us more details about what is your difference? Because we have a lot of actors that are playing the same field. What is your difference?
Of course, yeah, there's a lot of green accelerators or incubators or funds. So our main difference is that, like I said, not only that we started with our own money, but that we come from the entrepreneurial background. So we don't just invest into the company. This is something that doesn't always work. The entrepreneurs, if they haven't had any success before, what they need the most is an experienced drivers helping them build a company. So the main difference is that we use the know-how that we've used to build other companies and startups for these massive corporations, and we take this know-how and insert it into the companies, and we don't we actually help them build it. So we are one of the driving people on the ground, helping them build it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think we'll then jump to the next person, which is Tove Larsen from Norsken VC.
Thank you so much. And my internet clicker is not working, so I would love some support from the tech team, just to give a heads up. I'll wait for the presentation to be on. Super. Yeah, so I said I'm Tove Larsen, one of the general partners at Norsken VC. And we're a 125 million euro fund based out of Stockholm, Sweden, addressing the European market. Next, please. And what we're doing is really to back entrepreneurs that leverage tech to challenge or to tackle some of the biggest challenges we're seeing out there. Next. And impact is our first lens, and we look at impact as companies where the core operations are really having a positive effect on people and planet. And we use the SDGs for guidance, and then the theory of change and impact management project to really assess the impact of each case. In addition to that, we're of course looking for the financial potential, and for us that means to look for the next generation business models where profit and impact really goes hand in hand, and businesses that can become massive. We see tech as both a source of innovation to build these solutions, and also a way to scale the solutions across multiple markets and globally. And in terms of stage, we're looking for seed Series A companies across Europe. Next, please. And our ambition is really to back the new kind of unicorns, the companies that are not only valued at above $1 billion, but also are positively impacting more than 1 billion people. Next. To date, we've actually made 25 investments, and we are impact agnostic, so we invest all across the SDGs. But there are definitely a few themes that I'd like to highlight in our portfolio. And one is the agri-tech and food space, where we've invested in everything from WeFarm that helped small-scale farmers and provide a peer-to-peer knowledge-sharing platform, to Motatos or MatSmart that sells surplus food online to tackle the food waste challenge, and Blue Biosciences that actually are growing fish in labs. Another theme that we have in our portfolio is the electrification, where we back the world's greenest batteries, Northvolt, Enride that are providing autonomous electric trucks, and Heart Aerospace that are building electric aircrafts. Next, please. And we're super proud to be backed by both unicorn founders, the founders behind Klarna, King and Mojang, and also solid institutions. And some of them are on this call actually. So EIF, a government-owned Swedish Saminvest, and life and pension funds of Nordea and SEB. And for us, it's really, really promising to see the increasing interest in impact investing, also from the LP perspective. And we're super happy to see our fund just recently oversubscribed. And this really means a lot to the planet to see LPs with this increasing interest in impact investing, and to see that there's really a strong acceptance for impact and profit, not only that they only can go hand in hand, but there's actually a strong correlation. So last slide. More than happy to get in touch with both LPs and founders that are just like us, looking to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tove. And 24 seconds to spirits, which gives us a little bit more time for the Q&A. Are there any jury members who have a question for Tove?
Maybe Claire again. You just mentioned a new kind to be a new kind of unicorn. It's very good. What kind of methodology do you use to conduct your due deal, or to measure also the impact of your investment?
Yeah, that's a great question, and a field where we hope to see a lot of progress and standardization over the next coming years. But how we do it is that we, together with the founders of each company we invest in, we initially run an impact workshop where we together put together the theory of change framework and really define the impact, the outcome, and the output of the company. And then we connect KPIs that we can measure both in the longer term perspective and the shorter term perspective, to see that the company is actually tracking towards that impact, longer term impact vision. And we've also, together with EIF, linked our financial incentives of the fund to the fund actually achieving and the companies achieving the impact targets that we set out. So it's all very interlinked.
Clear, thank you.
We might have time for one quick more question.
Yes, I would build on this question, if I may, asking for maybe how do you build the specific impact of tech on climate change within your assessment?
Sorry, how do we build
the impact of tech on climate change? I mean, the environmental dimension of tech into your assessment process.
Yeah. No, so that's really the first assessment we do. Is this company having a positive impact on people or planet? And from the climate perspective, I mean, one common denominator is usually the CO2 emission reduction. So that's one typical KPI that we aim to track for the climate-related companies. And we do that, set out the definition of the measurement and the way to track those KPIs together with the companies, and do that on a quarterly basis.
All right, thank you so much.
I'm not sure if I answered your question correctly or I misunderstood. Happy to catch up on that one afterwards.
There will definitely be some opportunities for more networking after the session. I'm aware this is a very short time. So I'm going to instantly jump to Aglaé Toujar-Ledrian and Serge Pedrosia from RAISE.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Let me introduce Serge to you, co-head of RAISE Impact.
Good afternoon. Let me introduce you to Aglaé, co-head of RAISE Impact.
With more than 200 million under management, we are today one of the main impact investing funds. Less than 2 years after the launch of the fund, we have already invested into 11 growth companies targeting the ecological transition and the social inclusion. All these companies are addressing urgent and important issues through a systemic solution. Those 11 committed entrepreneurs have decided to choose RAISE Impact as a shareholder for 4 main reasons.
One is the RAISE ecosystem. This is the example of Tuco Energy, a company that aims at massifying the renovation of private homes and at making these affordable. We've introduced them to 4 large corporates in the energy sector, to which Raise Impact is very close. And we've introduced the company as well to a digitalization expert to help massify its offering and therefore make its impact ever larger. It's also the example of N2I, a company producing pheromones, a natural alternative to pesticides, which we have introduced to large distribution groups to which we are close to help them scale up on the American and the Asian continent. We've also introduced them to a number of startups in the agri-tech field for further innovation. It happens that the teams at Raise Impact give away half their carried interest to an internal foundation called Raise Sherpa that in turn supports pro bono hundreds of startups, which are just as many innovation opportunities for our portfolio companies.
Second, the impact. We have defined a unique methodology enabling to measure the contribution of the company to the Sustainable Development Goals. We then define an impact business plan with the entrepreneurs to align the objectives to the impact performance, just like our own carried interest is also linked to the achievement of extra financial KPIs. This support is valued by entrepreneurs, and we have received more than 1,000 of investment opportunities over the past 2 years.
3, the team and the track record. Raise Impact is made of 9 professionals, fully dedicated, combining together roughly 100 years of investing experience that are all both performance and impact minded. The 11 portfolio companies that are in the portfolio today have all been growing, all of them systematically throughout the lockdowns, throughout the pandemics, which for us highlights the fact that they are bringing real solutions to today's challenges of our society, both environmental and social.
And fourth, our LPs. Raise Impact is bringing under the same roof and with the same goals major European public and private institutional investors, alongside leading private foundation and family offices, striving for the common good. Those LPs strongly believe that we can achieve both market-oriented returns and a strong environmental and social impact. They can also co-invest alongside us and bring all their network in the public and private field, locally and internationally.
So we are now above our initial target size of 200 million euros, with a number of institutional LPs looking at investing and at joining us, and as well with an attractive and sizable pipeline of opportunities, and therefore our target size is now 250 million euros.
So we'd love to have a couple additional European investors joining us within the next months to be part of our ecosystem. So we'll be happy to hear from you if you're interested to join. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Agle and Serge. Is there anybody from the jury who would like to ask these two wonderful people a question?
Yes, from Gaspar. I seem to recall that part of the strategy was linked to a fund-of-fund approach. You're not mentioning that. Can you elaborate a bit on that segment of the strategy?
Might seem like they have frozen for a moment. Let's see if they come back with us in a second. Agle and Serge, can you hear us? That might be that they're frozen. Okay, we will jump to the next person. Don't worry, there will be plenty of time to talk with them in the virtual rooms after the session. All right, we're going to hand the word over to Martin van Dam from Pimvimic. I hope I pronounced it correctly, Martin. Are you with us here, Martin? I think we can't hear you. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
And I think.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
thank you all for listening to me. And probably PMIMIC is indeed the most hardest name to remember or to pronounce. It stands for Put Your Money Where Your Meaning Is Corporation. Well, it's an action-driven investment company, and already there since 1994. So maybe you can do the next slide, please. Because we have had a journey for the last 27 years. Started back then as a pioneer fund, and via a matchmaking platform and an investor club, we decided 5 years ago to start our first theme fund, which is called the Healthy Ecosystems Fund. Well, we have done some investments in that. We are actually closed for the first fund. And maybe you can go to the next slide, because I'm missing the... Yes, please. So we decided to set up our second fund, which is a bit more focused on the PMIMIC healthy food systems. Because we think that the food system is in the basic of everything. All the SDGs are related to that, if you take it a bit broader. And therefore we with the experience we have for the last 5 years and also the years before that, we decided that it was a time to set up our second fund with a more specific investment focus. The next slide, please. And that focus is actually from farm to fork, and within farm to fork, we are focusing especially on the data and tech-driven solutions. Can be everything from vertical farming to smart irrigation, alternative proteins, and so on and so forth. And probably it will create a lot of synergies with the already existing companies we are investing in, like the agri robots and TrapView, automated pest monitoring systems. Well, a lot of words trying to explain that in this food system, we want to try to achieve at least 4 goals. And that is about the next slide, please. And that is food security for indeed a growing population, a nature-positive food system, safe and healthy diets, and fair socioeconomics for farmers. It's all intertwined, it all relates, and per company we are designing in our due diligence process what could this company exactly mean in the whole chain of, in the whole value chain. Well, of course, we are and we will remain investors, so we are talking about financials as well, and that is about the next slide, please. And these financials are, well, you could say a bit plain vanilla, except of course for the impact side of things, because also, and I heard it before from other funds, a big part of our efforts about our resources is dedicated to creating impact. But next to impact, we really want to show that it is feasible of making a net IRR of 10%, trying to set this fund up with to 60 million. We already have the first 20 million secured. We are just open for a couple of weeks. So positive about that, with a minimum subscription of 1 million. Well, I think that's it for now. Trying to have it all in 4 minutes, and I'm very much welcome you to ask your questions or contact me later. Thank you.
You are definitely within that time frame, Martin. Thank you so much for that presentation. Is there anybody from the jury who has a question for Martin?
I'd have a question for Martin. Cyril here.
Yes, please.
Thanks a lot. So the Netherlands is a pretty sophisticated ecosystem for food and agriculture. How do you access those most promising companies that you source every day?
Well, thank you so much. So we are proud, actually a bit more than proud, that we have a really special relationship with the University of Wageningen, a well-known university on the food and ag business. And actually we have a really joint cooperation with them as well on the due diligence, as well on their Start Green program, which is about more in the seed stage, and we are more after that. There are in our investment committee. So I think Wageningen is one of the main drivers for us, that we are quite confident in accessing the right companies and well, working with them. We are very hands-on as well. I hope that answers your questions a bit.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah.
Thank you.
If anybody else have a super quick question, we could have a time for that as well.
I know PIMWIMIC comes originally from families and family offices. How are you foreseeing the change in your investor and stakeholder base?
Oh, great. Yeah, of course. We were based on the private investor side. So the first fund was 80% private, 20% more institutional. And we foresee for the second fund it will be vice versa. So we expect 80% from institutionals and another 20% from the privates. Just to be in the time. I can explain a bit more, but only 10 seconds left.
Excellent, Martin. You are absolutely great on time. And that allows us to go over to Marie Ekeland and Olivier Mathieu from 2050. The floor is yours. Not sure if we can hear you. I think you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying my internet clicker is not working, so we'll ask the tech team as well to go through slides. So very happy to be here. Olivier and myself are the general partners of 2050. When we set 2050, we asked ourselves what should our mission be, and we decided that we should be crafting a fertile future. Why crafting? Because we believe investing is actually crafting the world we will be living in. And why fertile future? Because we believe our future should be productive, evolutive, and inclusive. Next slide, please. So how do we do that? We actually framed our investment strategy around solving the key challenges of our times. So our goal is really until 2050 to say, how can we feed everybody in a healthy manner? How can we make sure everybody can take care of their body and mind, so mental and physical health, daily health, in a very good way? How can we make sure education and cultural models are evolving in such a way that everybody can contribute to that fertile future? How can we also live, explore, and exploit the planet and the world sustainably, meaning obviously solving that kind of carbon issue we have, but also making sure the transition in housing, transportation, and industry is going the right way. And the last one is putting back trust at the heart of our society with a media industry that can make democracy function, but also trust in the heart of our economies with insurance models that are covering up with the new risk, with a finance model that is allowing this future to happen. Next slide, please. So it's not only about solving these challenges at a certain point in time, but it's really solving them on the long run. So to do that, we need to finance companies that are aligning their business interests with those of society and the planet. To do that, we built key alignment indicators, which are framed into the ESG and impact measures, obviously, but also it's kind of a whole strategy that we'd put in place and launching the alignment playbook tomorrow to show our methodology around that. But to really build an alignment path with the company at a strategic level and a cultural level, at a governance level, all the way through the company. But however, it's too difficult to align a company by itself because we're part of a systemic and market that are pushing companies to misalign. So our view is to say we shouldn't invest in one particular company. We should think about investing in ecosystems that can actually build market switches. So to do that, we've built two different things in the way we operate. The first one is really to understand a company within an ecosystem and really to understand the whole value chain to see where the nodes are so we can invest at different levels. So it's a multi-stage fund. So we can take we can take the different opportunities at the different stages, but also what you see when you have that kind of value chain analysis, for example, in the agri-food business, is that some of the nodes that we have that are preventing market switches towards more aligned and fertile future is that some of the nodes cannot be solved by company, but needs to be solved by research, by advocacy, by knowledge, by open data, by open tools. So strategic or common things that can help everybody to do do and go through that dynamic, but cannot be held by one particular company. So this is why we have 10% of the fund and 50% of our carried interest, which is dedicated into funding these open strategic resources that will help the whole portfolio to make that transition in the proper and accelerated way. Next slide, please. So we've applied this to ourselves by doing two things. The first thing is we're a pure aligned company with our management company that is held by a perpetual purpose trust. So we have only financial interests that are on the fund. And the second thing we did is that the fund itself is open and long-term. It's an evergreen structure. We're building liquidity at the fund level to give a lot of freedom to founders to build the strategy the way they want. And the last slide, please, is to be able to achieve and execute that. We've built a team that is gathering the best of the worlds with venture capital, obviously, but also the impact world, the research world, the commons world, and the startup world with Olivier. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, Marie, and that was exactly on time. Do we have any questions for Marie?
So I have a question for Marie. This is Elena speaking. So I'm really interested about what you said at the very end in terms of the evergreen fund, because from memory it's something that probably the Loi Pacte in France probably has allowed. So I'm just wondering, because it's a new model, how is this being perceived and received from investors and LPs, and do you think this is a model going forward also for other countries if it's not already the case?
Sure. Olivier, do you want to take that, or shall I answer?
You can answer, yes.
Okay. So the evergreen structure it depends on the type of investors. So on the founder side, it's super welcomed. I mean, it's the best value proposition to attract founders that are really wanting to be able to build their path and strategic paths and development and think long term. And so this on the founder side is really, I have not seen anybody who would not tell me it's a good idea. On the investor side, what you see is that people who do think long term and who are seeing as well that the sector itself is building a lot of liquidity at the startup level and even in the venture capital or private equity industry in general. So it's kind of the sense of history. They're perfectly fine with the evergreen model. The people who have the most difficulties doing that are more kind of classic asset managers who are funds of funds, basically, who do have their time constrained themselves and who do not know how to deal with the fact of having an open structure like this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. And then we're going to hand it over to Douglas Hansen-Luke from Future Planet Capital. Douglas, over to you. Oh, you are muted, Douglas.
Bonjour. So I'm Douglas, the founder of Future Planet Capital, and I'm relying on Christelle to pull up my slides, which she's done brilliantly. Thank you very much. So Future Planet Capital, it's the world's first impact and innovation platform to invest in growth stage companies emerging from the founders and science from top universities. So it's growth, impact, and universities. Next slide, please. With a heritage stretching back 30 years, our vision is to connect the biggest investors to the brightest minds to profitably address global challenges. It's to move large amounts of money based on these three key drivers of return: growth stage private markets access, impact, and innovation from universities. Next slide. From the end of the noughties, the bulk of private returns from the biggest tech companies have come before IPO, and that hasn't changed. Next slide. Impact and challenges now address trillion-dollar problems that present significant opportunities for outsized returns and the need for scale investment, not micro, not small, but scale. And investment drives returns. With the right business model, those returns will be far higher than traditional businesses. And we always want to emphasize, next slide, that there is nothing sustainable about a loss or thinking small. And thankfully, profit with purpose is now something that's widely acknowledged and welcomed by governments, investors, entrepreneurs, and consumers. And on the next slide, let us talk about universities. Many of the world's brightest minds are found in the top universities and centers of innovation. In Europe, world-changing technologies, artificial intelligence, the web, penicillin, the computer, the lithium battery, were all invented through research from universities. And today, nearly $5 billion a year is spent by governments across the institutions we manage. And that leads to corporate success. Have a look on the next slide at the list of some of the companies spun out or founded by the alum from the university that we cover. Companies that are not only the largest to have ever existed, but which have produced phenomenal value. And our vision is to turn that value into impact with the next generation of companies. And just think of how much money there is. The turnover of companies from just 3 of those universities, MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, is greater than the combined GDP of France, Britain, and India. So if we look at that on the next slide, if this had been instilled and created 20 years ago, you'd have had a track record which would have produced the most successful venture fund ever. And it's our belief that the acceleration in knowledge-based returns from things like artificial intelligence and DNA advances will mean that the returns will be even higher going forward. Next slide. At our team, at FPC, our team inspired by Norman Foster, the renowned innovator and designer, we've already deployed $300 million in this space. Our team founded venture for universities across 3 continents and have a track record of investing in over 5 unicorns, founding investors, and have established 9 profitable funds. In the Future Planet Fund, which we established 3 years ago, on the next slide, we already have a portfolio of companies where we've had exits, one of which has already given us an IRR in excess of 100%. Another, 23andMe, which we'll shortly list with support from Richard Branson, is working with GlaxoSmithKline to develop over 10 different clinical trials using next-generation DNA therapeutics across its vast database. Next slide. Future Planet invests for the British government, the European Investment Fund, so thank you. One back, please. Institutional pension plans, sovereign funds, and corporates, and Barclays Bank's clients. We gain access to impactful deals alongside some of the world's top venture managers. Venture is not marginal. And finally, this year, we're launching with, next slide please, we're launching with Barclays a climate change fund and with MIT their first for-profit fund for impact. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Douglas, for that fantastic presentation. Does anybody have a question for Douglas?
I would have a question.
I have a question for Douglas.
Yeah, sorry. You have a vision of the US and European impact sector. What are the key differences you observe, and how could Europe be stronger in that field in the next few years, especially on the growth aspect?
I think the European commitment to impact is more genuine, and it's longer term, longer running. The American commitment to impact is more recent. I'm speaking very generally. Annoyingly, it's also much bigger and much greater in scale. So when we began Future Planet, we began with our impact measurements and metrics by discussing them with PGGM, APG, to make sure that we were able to move money at scale for Europeans as well as for international investors outside of our geography. And I think that the biggest change that we need is exactly that, to think big scale, not micro, when we're thinking venture.
I think there was one more question. So if that question is very fast and we get a quick answer. Yes.
I do a quick follow-up question. I totally see the innovative capacities of universities, but how do you access these resources, and where is your USP in comparison to other funds who could possibly also access these?
Yeah, we've focused on 10 of them. We've got partnerships and official partnerships with them, with their university funds. So we invest at the Series B and C. We use boots on the ground to the local official managers and partners in those ecosystems who are doing seed and Series A. So they know the universities inside out. Our job is to connect those universities to the greater world for greater impact.
Beautiful. Thank you, and that's 4 seconds to spare. All right, we're going to hand it over to Aymeric Young from Quadia. Aymeric, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I think I would need some slide, please. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, so we are discussing today finance, solution, and investment. It's my passion for 25 years, but I have only 4 minutes. And according to me, finance must bring solutions and not crisis. Impact investing takes into account the social and environmental disruptions we are living. I worked more than 50 years in capital markets, and I was at Lehman Brothers in 2008. I remember also Kodak as an investor and has a solid blue chip company. Kodak did not understand disruption and trends, and Lehman Brothers did not understand long-term investment that matters. Next slide, please. So now it's different. At Quadia, we consider that just changing our footprint and reducing negative impacts are not enough. We need to transform our economy and bring capital to regenerative economy. We want products and services that create positive impact. Next slide, please. So our vision is of an economy inspired by natural ecosystems, because an ecosystem is sustainable by definition. The regenerative economy is local, circular, collaborative, functional. It closes the loop. This economy gives back more than it uses and works within a one planet limit. Now, it exists only in farming, but we bring it at Quadia to our investees on key sectors such as sustainable food, energy efficiency, and circular production and consumption. Entrepreneurs have a mission with their business model to transform their sector. We support them with our own impact methodology toward the regenerative economy, which is more resilient and more impactful. And for this, we are really close to 2050 fund. Marie explained this on the value chain, and we discuss this sometimes together, and it's really in this spirit we can change economy and do the big changes. We cannot do it alone, but thanks to our community of investors, we make it happen. First, individual investors, foundations, family offices, and now with institutional investors. We want to keep personal convictions and alignment with our investors. And we do this through dedicated mandates, club deals, and our regional impact fund. It is a flexible offer for investors and companies looking for funding. So Quadia, we are a 10-people team based in Geneva and Paris, and we have invested around 200 million in more than 30 companies, mainly in Europe. Now, I want to expose 2 points. First, our main differentiation is our transversal impact approach. Yes, we changed it in 2017 from impact measurement to impact management. It means we build together with the investee a roadmap to change their business model to an ecosystem with 4 impact objectives based on 14 KPIs. It's not just a strategy, it's an alliance. And also, we know that our impact as investors is not the impact of the investee or the portfolio. We must bring and provide entrepreneurs capital for growth with value, alignment for impact in the shareholder agreement, and to demonstrate that regenerative model is profitable and efficient. Next slide, please. So we are lucky and we have an exclusive deal flow coming from entrepreneurs. As example here, Loop, present at ChangeNOW today, proves that recycling was good for the past century, but it's not enough. Now we need to reuse at a large scale. Fairphone demonstrates we can think good and circular from the beginning. SOS Accessoires demonstrates that repairing is a new market, and Les Cotonantais demonstrates that we do not need to be a new company for creating impact. And finally, Mimosa also at ChangeNOW to finance the transition and to change the finance. Next, please. So I would just say that we strongly believe that impact investing reconciles short-term constraints with long-term needs. And I would like to paraphrase as a conclusion John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and to tell you, ask not what your investment can do for you, but ask what you can make possible with your impact. So impact with us. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Aymeric. I love that ending and that philosophical question. On that note, does anybody have one question for Aymeric?
Yeah, Claire, maybe a question about, Marie just mentioned before, open source data and the idea that she's able to share everything. What do you think about this idea, and what do you think about sharing your methodology concerning extra financial KPIs? Could be interesting.
We shared it, and Quadia has a pioneer in impact investing. As I told you, we changed from impact measurements, some KPIs or extra financial indicators to really a full methodology to change the company. And on the last 2 years, when new funds started to do some impact, we were always to share our methodology, to explain what we are doing. We did it with a lot of impact funds. That's why also today some funds call Quadia for our expertise, and we are co-investors on several deals. So yes, we share.
Thank you.
Is there another final super quick one? Did I hear somebody who had a question? All right, then we'll head over to Johannes Weber from Ananda. Johannes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'll also ask you to flip through my slides. So yeah, my name is Johannes. I'm one of the two founders of Ananda Ventures, a Munich and London-based European venture capital impact fund, a generalist fund. We are currently managing 80 million euros, raising for Fund 4, and will then be managing around 180 million euros. And yeah, what we started 11 years ago, I think, has evolved quite nicely. Next slide, please. And then next. Until the first one with some content. Thank you. That's not content. Next one would have some content. So just to give you a few examples, because I think it translates really well what we do through examples. So one of the companies we've built is an organization called Auticon, a company where autistic people or people on the autism spectrum work as IT consultants. It has grown from Germany into the world, with offices from Australia to the US. Actually, Richard Branson becoming one of the investors a few years ago and taking this company into mainstream as an impact business by saying that 3 companies that impress him the most is Virgin Money, Body Shop, and Auticon. And another company based in Bristol in the UK produces 3D printed bionic prostheses for children with upper limb differences. They have a cooperation with Disney and Marvel, so you can get a Frozen arm or an Iron Man arm. So we're really about tech. We like tech. We like the scaling of tech. We're all entrepreneurs from our background, mostly also with a tech background. We also believe that you can actually be a more empathetic investor if you have been an entrepreneur before. So next slide, please. We have a very stable team, never had any fluctuation on the team, and a lot of entrepreneurial experience. Next slide, please. And I think our impact track record and the financial track record shows that what we believed in the beginning as a thesis actually works in practice. So Fund 1 is performing at 15% gross IRR, and we have increased our fund gross and net IRR targets across every fund. We were the first fund to get capital from European Investment Fund in 2014, and they're now investing for the 3rd time with us. And we've done lots of co-investments with traditional impact VCs, but also with the venture capital space from the US to the UK and many other countries that come to the same conclusion that these are great companies, but just look through a different lens. Next slide, please. One thing that's, I think, special, and it comes from the about us and what we've experienced in the last 10 years, is our focus on diversity. So 1/3 of our portfolio companies is founded, led or co-led by women, which is just one angle of diversity, but a very obvious one. We believe that this is actually a strategic advantage to have good answers for female entrepreneurs. And we are now, putting a lot of effort into our diversity and inclusion practice. Another one is actually our focus on founders' health, which is mental and physical health. There are stats that show that founders have a 50% higher likeliness to suffer from a negative mental condition, and we address this very early at the investment, before the investment actually, and take a lot of care that founders' health is maintained. Next slide, please. As a generalist impact fund, we look at a variety of themes, so from healthcare to education, some areas in sustainability, and something we call nicely equitable humanity. Next slide, please. In the last 11 years, we've done a bit north of 30 investments, also some successful exits, actually working on our first IPO right now, which will hopefully materialize next year, and currently raising Fund 4. Most of the capital is actually already raised, so first closing this month, actually next month in June, and then we stay open for another quarter or so. Mix of private investors and institutional investors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johannes, for that inspiring presentation. And I'm going to open the floor to a jury member who might have a question for Johannes.
If I may, Cyril here.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Johannes, you are investing with Ananda for more than 10 years in the impact investing space, so where it's a difficult question for a short time frame, but what is your observations on the evolution of the market in those last 10 years?
Okay, the short answer to this actually is, Cyril, that we now have names for the things that we were trying to do 11 years ago. So we can say there are such thing as impact businesses, and there is such a thing as impact investing, and that we have good definitions around that, and that there are a significantly increased number of entrepreneurs, also great second-time, third-time entrepreneurs, willing to move into this space, and that is also measured in many studies, and therefore I think that's a great achievement. And the other thing is that actually the traditional impact investment space is somehow traditional venture capital space is moving in our direction, even the private equity space. So these are some strong observations, and they've just happened in the last couple of years or so. So very, very great times for us, I would say.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Johannes. And unfortunately, because time is kind of running away from us, I will have to give the word over to Matteo Cornietti from Impact Aimer. So he will also get his time to share with us his work. Matteo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ingi. I do not have any slideshow. Just can you hear me? It's fine. Okay, great. So my name is Matteo Cornietti. I'm the CEO of Impact Partners. I guess okay. Impact Partners is a European platform fully dedicated to impact investing, based in, I'm sorry, I guess we have a problem of network. Okay. We're based in Paris, Barcelona, Frankfurt, and Copenhagen, and soon we will open offices in Milano. And the story started in 2007 in Paris, right after the urban riots. I think you may remember those urban riots in 2005, which was kind of an electroshock for the French society. At that time, in 2007, the word impact investing was not existing yet. I'm really happy to share that flow with other pioneers, because at that time, we were willing to have a financial performance and a social performance, meaning creating jobs in those deprived neighborhoods. We started with business angels, 5 million euros, and today we are ending the fundraising of our fund in Growth number 4, and we have increased our hard cap to 200 million euros. So we are now a full AFM private equity platform with a European passport, 40 colleagues, and 350 million euros under management. So that's been a long path for that, and with the support of great investors, including the EIF. I will just give you our vision as a fully dedicated management company for impact, we have 3 strategies. The first one is social, meaning reducing inequalities. The second one is local. I mean, we promote entrepreneurship in deprived areas. And the third one is green. Green meaning facing the climate change issues, which are not just environmental, as you may know. It's also the idea that we may have. I mean, the climate change. It's no more a question of mitigation. The climate change is arriving. We know that we need to face it, including having the. I mean, we need social cohesion. So it's also both a green and a social issue. For reducing inequalities, for the social issues, we invest from 2 to 20 million euros in SMEs, generating great impacts for learning, working, and caring, targeting fragile communities all over Europe. And once we have an innovative, a great entrepreneur somewhere in Europe, I mean, last year we've realized 7 investments, 1 in Spain, 1 in Germany. We will invest 1 in, I guess, soon in Denmark. I mean, once we have, and for sure in France, but once we have a great entrepreneur, we believe that he or she could expand to Europe, get a European leadership, and help us to fix an issue in another European countries, since we have all over Europe the same challenges: aging of the population, difficulties for the youth to enter the labor market, disabled people at work. Well, we do have that strategies. The other strategy, which is local, is we have a seed fund, and the seed fund is an amazing strategy we launched 3 years ago, and it's funding retail businesses in the banlieue, those deprived urban areas. So we have already funded 100 new, more than 100 shops in those areas, creating more than 1,000 jobs. And we think about expanding it to Southern Europe, that great model.
Mathieu?
Yes.
I am so sorry. I have to cut you, even though I don't like it. We are running a little bit over time.
One sentence, which is, summarizing what we do is just acting, not financing, but acting with ambitious entrepreneurs to get a more sustainable and fair society. Now, that's just our vision. Thanks.
Thank you, Mathieu. And we are running a little bit over time, but I would love to just see if there's one super quick question or a super quick answer from Mathieu before we close and open up the virtual rooms for further networking. Are there any burning questions? All right, that's okay. No worries. If you have a business or investor pass, you can actually join all of the people who pitch right now for the next 30 minutes. You can follow the link in the chat. And if you have an investor pass, you can join the juror tables in the following 30 minutes. So we'll give you plenty or more time to keep networking. And if you don't have the pass, you can still secure it, but you have to do it before you join the room. That's it. Thank you so much to all investors who are pitching, to the juror members, and all of you tuning in. I hope you all leave more inspired and take more action in the future. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy the further Change Now program. Bye, everybody.